'03, a lot of people try to compare this Lakers team today, which is LeBron, AD, Russ, Ariza, Dwight Howard. Obviously, a lot of guys who have or will be Hall of Fame players. And when they assembled this team, a lot of people said, oh, man, this is like the 2003 team where they had Kobe and Shaq, and they added GP, they added Karl Malone, they added all of these guys, and they didn't win a championship. Now, obviously, this season isn't over for them, and obviously it's not going the way that they wanted to go. But I thought it was kind of crazy when everybody decided to compare y'all to them because, number one, Kobe and Shaq were still
in their
prime, where LeBron is still a great player. Like, LeBron is still one of the, if not the best player in the NBA. You can always make that argument. Arguably the greatest player of all times, you can make that argument. But he is in year 19, if I'm not mistaken, year 19. Yeah. And so they weren't in their prime. So right there alone, I thought was different. Where, y'all got them two young hogs in their prime going at it, and you were still rolling too. Like, you continued on after that as well. And I think Malone was older at that point. It wasn't the same.
Way older, yeah. He was way older, Draymond, and you got that right. I was just only in my 13th season. That was it. I was only in my 13th season. So I was still rolling. I had just came off the All-Star team. I had did all that. I was just averaging 23, 24 points or whatever and went there. And all of a sudden, what happened was that we had a lot of different stuff going on. Mm-hmm. I mean, remember Kobe had got in trouble in Denver. Shaq was feuding with Dr. Buss. And then Karl got hurt. And guess what, Draymond? We still made the championship.
Absolutely.
Still made the championship. I was the only one on the team that played all 82 games. Uh-huh. I was the one who directed all the stuff. And we had players that came in and fit in. I don't think this Laker team is nothing like our team in 2003 at all. I think we had players that knew their role. I think the Laker team right now they hurt too. They're very hurt. A lot of their players hurt. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them are not playing. And I don't think Russ is playing the way that he should be playing. It's a new thing to him to go and be the man so long, and then you got to go with AD and LeBron, and you got to give them the ball. He's so much dominant on the basketball that he's not doing the things he did. I think he's thinking too much. I just went to the game. The other night on the 23rd and watched them play against San Antonio. And I think he thinks too much. You know what I'm saying? And they rely on LeBron so much that they're watching him. You know what I'm saying? They don't play the way that you guys play. Like, if people cut and move and do that, they're watching the basketball too much. And I just think the team is not that way. I think our guys Kobe was in his prime. He was a dog. He can come out and get 50 anytime he wanted to. Shaq could dominate the inside. Myself as a point guard was running it. We were running a triangle, which was new to me and Karl. But Karl got hurt, and he missed 60 games. He missed 62 games. And that was bad. It was crazy. We were 18-2 when he got hurt. 18-2. And he got hurt. So it was crazy for us. And then all of a sudden, Shaq misses 40 games. Kobe misses 37. So, that was just crazy for us. But I don't think this team that the Lakers got are nothing like us. I think we were more in our prime. A lot of us was way more in our prime than they were. But the guys on there right now, Draymond, like you said, Carmelo, Westbrook, all them dudes, Anthony, all of them going to go to the Hall of Fame. Absolutely. It's just that they're hurt. They're just hurt right now. And it's just a struggle. And it's hard to put a team like that together, and you guys are not healthy.
100%. And people always ask me, like, who do you worry about in the West? Phoenix, Utah? Like, Phoenix and Utah are really good teams. Like, I think, when you roll down to it in the end, conference finals, all that, those two teams will possibly be right there with us. I have no doubt in my mind about that. But I always tell people, like, you still got to worry about the Lakers. Like, they still got LeBron James. They still got Anthony Davis. They still got Russell Westbrook. They still got Carmelo Anthony. They still have guys that can beat you. And you can go on about your day and your life and your months up until the playoffs and think that they aren't to be dealt with. As a player, as someone who got to face those guys, someone in the same division, those guys still have to be dealt with. There's too much talent on that basketball court, on that team, to not have to deal with those guys. So, I mean, You're talking probably legitimately 6 Hall of Famers. Hey, you got to deal with those guys. So I don't really make too much of what's going on right now and what people are saying. You still got to deal with those guys. But I do think Russ is overthinking it a little bit. And I understand it also. Obviously, I'm not who Russell Westbrook is. I don't have the ball as much or never have in my career as Russell Westbrook does. But I do understand the sacrifices that it takes when you're playing with guys like that that should have the ball. I understand the sacrifice it takes and trying to find that balance. For me, I completely stopped shooting. Like, totally stopped shooting because you're just trying to find that balance and get those guys the ball. So I definitely understand it a little bit, where he's coming from or what he's dealing with.
Right.
I understand that.
You and the Lakers. Yeah, exactly. Russ, he had 9 turnovers last night, including 7 in the first half. And the Lakers did manage to beat the Wolves, but Russ wasn't shy about defending himself post-game. Take a listen.
My game is not predicated on shots or if I turn the ball over. Like, I miss some shots, that's part of the game. I'm allowed to miss shots. I can do that, like any other player, I can do that. I can turn the ball over too. I can do that. That's all a part of the game. But when you watch a basketball game and figure out what impact, making the right plays, boxing out, rebounding, whatever that may be, making the right play, making the right reads, that's all about being a basketball player.
So, Ramona, what was interesting to me is that comment, that answer, came off of a question from our Dave McMenamin, essentially just saying, hey, you hit a big shot at the end. What was that like after having a little bit of an up and down night before? And that's how he chose to answer. Yeah. What did you make of those comments?
Yeah, I was watching that live, and the question came in like, hey, when the game wasn't going your way, and he goes, I disagree with that.
Yeah.
And Dave followed up by saying, what part do you disagree with? That the game wasn't going my way. Well, I mean, he had 9 turnovers, Malika. That's kind of by definition. He wasn't shooting very well, wasn't playing very well. That's impacting your team. And I think the thing with Russ that the Lakers have struggled with this year, which is LeBron will publicly say, we need Russ to be Russ. We need Russ to feel like he can miss shots. So I know what that quote means. They're telling him, keep shooting, keep being you, keep being aggressive. If anything, be more aggressive. Don't try to rein it in so that you don't make mistakes. Let it go. However, in the film sessions, when they talk to him about the way he's playing, those turnovers are highlighted. All those little mistakes, all those things that he can clean up, those are presented, those are highlighted. He understands, like, it's not a on or off switch. It's not a go hard, be aggressive versus be conservative, don't have turnovers. It's you can do both. And I think that is where the disconnect is happening now with Russ, where he's trying to be full throttle Russ. He wants to be, plays with his hair on fire, he plays hard. And in his mind, that's what he needs to do. And that's what they want him to do as well. But can you also do that and clean up the turnovers and make better decisions at the court? The answer should be yes.
And do you need to have that public accountability, Matt, even if you are having those discussions in a film session?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. What really matters is the guys in that locker room, how they feel about it. But at the end of the day, you look at all the great point guards, they've always been able to change speeds. Russ's greatness has been predicated about how strong, fast, and athletic he's always been. I've yet to see him really change speeds, and I'm hoping maybe playing with LeBron or getting a little bit older, he'll start to understand when and where to attack and to slow down. But if you look at all, the top turnover guys in the league every year, they're always going to be some of the best players in the game because they have the ball the most. Would you like him to turn get turnovers down a little bit? Absolutely. I think he's second in the league to turnovers behind James. So you would want to cut that down a little bit. But I think you have to take the good with the bad with Russ. And normally, coming into situations playing with a great player like LeBron, everyone else has to adjust. But it looks like on this Laker team, these guys are figuring out how to adjust to Russ. And normally you would think you got to adjust to LeBron or AD, but they have to figure out how to play with Russ because he is going to be a vital part of this team if they hope to make a run. And I'm still sticking to it. I think we're not going to see the best Laker team until post All-Star, but I hope they can figure out all this kind of when to go, when not to go, how to play off each other in the meantime. Well,
and one thing we're seeing right now, you mentioned playing with LeBron. We're seeing LeBron playing at center. And the Lakers, they've thrived with LeBron at center this season with a 113.5 offensive efficiency. So that would rank second in the NBA. And the team is also plus 46 in the 318 minutes with James at the 5, but just +3 when LeBron plays at any other position. So Matt, can you take us through what has worked so well with LeBron at the 5 specifically?
I've been selfishly waiting for this to happen for a long time. You think about MJ and Kobe, how they slowed the game down and ran the game through the post, whether they're going to score or make plays for their teammates. They took control right there. And every time LeBron's in the post, he's going to be the strongest, most athletic guy out there. You're not going to be able to stop. You saw a mismatch right there. And then right here, you're going to see a high pick and roll, but this is one of the best passers, top 10 in assists all time. He's always able to find his teammates. So what you want is the ball in LeBron's hands to make the right decisions. You see he's doing here. And in this last clip, I think he's starting to really figure out he doesn't have to work harder. He's starting to work smarter. Going to that 5 spot, that 4 spot is going to slow his mileage down on the court. Normally he's been accustomed his whole career to playing on the perimeter, and that's a lot of running. When you get a chance to go down on that block and slow the game down, making backdoor cuts, playing at that pinch post or the high post where the offense is running through you, I think this is a great position for him. I'm just interested to see how it's going to work when AD comes back.
Right, so that's the question, right? Can this work long term, particularly with Anthony Davis, who said he doesn't particularly enjoy playing the 5, but when they won a championship in the bubble, where was he playing?
Yeah, he was playing the 5. Now, yeah, it can work long term. Yeah. I mean, this is, Matt, you're right. You're not the only one who's been selfishly wanting this to happen for a while. When LeBron was in Miami, it was, when is LeBron going to play the 4?
Because he can bully anybody. There's nobody that can guard him on the block. And if you're bigger than him physically, he can take you on the wing. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to give you some very sophisticated analysis. Look how big he is. Okay, LeBron is big. Like, he can play the 5. In today's NBA, he's actually kind of big for a small ball 5. And I think this can work long term. It can't work against Nikola Jokic. It can't work against Joel Embiid. But
can it work against a Giannis?
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. And I think that's where the Lakers are. Now, the Lakers have had some interesting things happen this last couple of weeks. They found Stanley Johnson. And Stanley Johnson is playing his way onto this team.
They're
going to make room for him. And he's actually squeezing Dwight Howard out of some minutes right now, because when you put LeBron at the 5 and then you're working Trevor Ariza back in, some of those are Dwight's minutes. Now, with LeBron at the 5 now, this is so much space. And they tried to get away with this against Minnesota. Naz Reid made them pay for it. Yeah. But in the fourth quarter, where was LeBron on defense? On Naz Reid, and he shut him down.
Right. Yeah. So the one sort of hole that I was looking at, Matt, last night was they got 2-1 on the boards.
Yeah, they got doubled up, especially on the offensive glass. And it's going to take a concerted effort. Russ has historically been a good rebounder, but it's going to take a gang effort rebound when you're playing this sort of small ball.
That's right.
What I mean? When you're playing with LeBron, a 6'9" guy in the post. And the one thing about the Lakers are just an older, slower team. So I love the point you made about Stanley Johnson, because he brings some athleticism and some youth, and some guy that's going to take it. I think he did a great job against James Harden a few games ago when Brooklyn came into town. They don't have anyone like that. They're trying to work Trevor in, but Trevor's a little older himself. But Stanley Johnson is the one young bull on the team that can play with his hair on fire, play both ends of the floor, play hard, and just give them some juice, because they desperately need that.
So you mentioned it, when Anthony Davis comes back, then what? I'm wondering, for DeAndre Jordan, for Dwight Howard, now Anthony Davis, what is the concoction going to look like when
I think obviously AD is going to come, and AD doesn't really like playing down there. So AD could probably still float on the perimeter a little bit while LeBron runs the offense through him, and it's going to be tough. We're going to see what kind of vets Dwight and DeAndre are, because they're going to get spot minutes in certain situations. They may not play as much. They may not play 5 games in a row. They may play 20 minutes. So that's going to come down to their, professionalism. They've been in the league for a long time, and just understanding the situation, because this team is still trying to find the rhythms and rotations that work, and they've yet to find it this year. I think they're sitting at 500.
It's all about space, okay? And when you have a non-shooter on the floor, which I hate to call Russ a non-shooter, but that's how the NBA looks at him, okay? You have another non-shooter as a center in Dwight and DeAndre Jordan. So you can't have 2 non-shooters on the floor. Houston got to that point a few years ago when Russ was there, and they went with the no center. They traded Clint Capella. I think we're going to get to the point with the Lakers where they'll make a decision with Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan. One of them probably will not be in the team. My bet would be Dwight Howard, just because that Dwight would be on the team, that he's ahead of DeAndre right now in terms of just defensive ability, rebounding, giving them what they need from that spot in those matchups against Jokic or Embiid or other centers.
And when you ask LeBron James, he's not publicly chalking up their success to him playing the 5. He's saying consistency. So can they take pieces of the consistency they have right now, add Anthony Davis back into the mix, and see what they got? We got so much more coming up on NBA Today. So what's the ceiling?